The Philadelphia Phillies were unfortunately unable to build off the momentum after a huge, dominant 13-0 shutout win over the Atlanta Braves down there in Atlanta Friday night to kick off that 3-game series against their division rivals. Unfortunately, as I said, Saturday night, the Phillies dropped Game 2 of this series to the Braves 6-1. The series is now tied 1-1 heading into Sunday afternoon's series finale. Hopefully, the Phillies can get back on track with a win and win this series against the Braves as they head back home to Citizens Bank Park for a homestand. Sunday's game here features Ranger Suarez on the mound for the Phillies, who's been dominant so far in 2025, versus Braves starter Spencer Strider. Obviously, he has a history with the Philadelphia Phillies and the Philadelphia Phillies fans. He is pitching at his home ballpark, so it's not as a hostile environment as it would be if he were pitching at Citizens Bank Park, but nonetheless, something to tune in for and something that the Phillies are going to be rooting against, not only against the Braves, but against Spencer Strider as well. As I said, hopefully, Ranger Suarez continues his dominance and picks up this series finale win for the Phillies to head back home on a high note. Welcome into Phillies Daily, everybody. I'm your host, Mike Henley. Make sure you guys subscribe for more Phillies content. Jesus Luzardo, the Phillies off-season trade acquisition from the Miami Marlins this past off-season. He had a terrific start to his Phillies career. Had a rough 2 consecutive starts a few weeks back. Really hurt his season numbers, especially his ERA. But he's been getting back into the groove recently in his past couple starts. Not nearly as dominant as he was to start the season, but he's showing signs of that pitcher we did see prior to those 2 just horrific starts that he did have a few weeks ago. He took that mound in Game 2 against the Braves in this 6-1 loss. He didn't have his best stuff, but he did, power his way through 5 innings. It was a gutsy performance. He really gutted out those 5 innings. He, as I said, didn't have his best stuff, but he kept the Phillies in the ballgame. He went 5 innings. He allowed 7 hits. He did allow 3 walks. As I said, didn't really have his best stuff, but he only allowed 2 earned runs in those 5 innings, and he also recorded 7 strikeouts. He did have 97 pitches, as I said. He got into some trouble early. He had a really long second inning. He threw about 30 or so pitches in that second inning. It's really just bumped up his pitch count there. Not what you like to see. Obviously, you want your starters to go deeper into the ball games to conserve the bullpen. But Jesus Luzardo did keep the Phillies in the game despite not having his A-plus stuff. It did get dicey there, especially in that 5th inning, in his last inning of work. The Braves had 2nd and 3rd with no outs, so 2 runners in scoring position, no outs in that bottom of the 5th inning. But Jesus Luzardo was able to bear down, and he escaped that jam without allowing a run, kept it a 2-0 deficit at the time that the Phillies were trailing the Braves 2-0. He was able to record 2 groundouts, and he struck out a batter looking in that inning with those runners in scoring position. So, just great stuff out of Jesus Luzardo to escape that jam. Unfortunately, the Phillies did end up losing that ball game 6-1, but Jesus Luzardo deserves a little bit of credit there for battling through those 5 innings and keeping his team in the game. Unfortunately, the Phillies offense just couldn't get it going. And, it's been a common theme, a common trend as of late, the Phillies offense, especially going back to that sweep at the hands of the Houston Astros the other day in that 3-game series down in Houston before they started this 3-game series against the Braves. Obviously, the Phillies offense did not do good at all. They scored just 1 run in those 3 games combined. They had 15 hits total in those 3 games. Just really poor performances out of pretty much everybody top to bottom through the lineup in that Houston series. Obviously had that huge 13-run outburst where they had 17 hits in Friday night's game against the Braves to win that ball game 13-0. Couldn't carry that momentum into Saturday night against the Braves. They could only get 4 hits and just 1 run in that 6-1 loss to the Braves in the second game of this series Saturday night. And the Phillies struck out 14 times in that loss. Their starting pitcher, the Braves starting pitcher, he had 12 of those strikeouts. Just, this offense, this team is just way too talented to go through these struggles offensively like this, having just 4 hits, 1 run, 14 strikeouts in 1 ball game. It's just, you're not going to win ball games that way. And clearly the Phillies lost that ball game 6-1 to the Braves. So hopefully they can get back on track Sunday afternoon here and pick up this series finale win to go back home, as I said, on a high note and make these Phillies fans, thinking good, feeling high, having high spirits as we head into this homestand. We just, you don't want to keep this frustrating offense performances like this where they're just not doing much, just continuing because, as I said, just very frustrating for a team that has so much talent offensively. And just another just really frustrating thing all season long, especially, it just came again here in Saturday night's loss to the Braves. We saw it happen again. Jordan Romano, the Phillies veteran reliever, offseason acquisition from the Toronto Blue Jays they signed this past offseason to be their closer, just hasn't panned out in 2025 the way that he had hoped, the way that the Phillies had hoped. He's had some ups. He's had a lot more downs, it feels like, though, to start his Phillies career. Now, he has been pitching good as of late. He also had another stretch a little earlier in the season that he really pitched well as well. But as I said, just too many performances where he's blowing games or just, just not performing well, not pitching well, just to say the least at all. Jordan Romano allowed a grand slam to the Braves in the 7th inning of that Saturday night's loss. As I said, it was a 2-1 game. The Phillies were down by 1 run in that 7th inning. The grand slam obviously adds 4 more runs to that total to bump it up to a 6-1 Braves lead. And really, that's all they needed. The Phillies, as I said, the offense couldn't get anything going really all game. And that was really just the dagger for the Phillies. Jordan Romano, he did finish that inning in the 7th for the Phillies. So his final line was 1 inning, 4 hits, and 4 earned runs. As I said, he had been pitching well as of late. Before Saturday night's grand slam that he allowed, he did pitch 6 consecutive scoreless appearances out of the Phillies bullpen. His ERA entering Saturday before he allowed that grand slam was 6.28, very high still. But if you remember earlier in the season how high his ERA was, that 6.28 ERA was actually his lowest ERA since after the April 3rd game, way back, as I said, way in the beginning of April, where he had a 6.00 ERA. So he was able to get his ERA way down from what it was earlier in the season. Unfortunately, those 4 runs bumped his ERA back up over 7. He's sitting at a 7.28 ERA now as we head into this Sunday afternoon ball game against the Braves. Just Jordan Romano simply can't be trusted. As I said, he does have some games where he pitches well. He does have some stretches where he's going really well. His pitch movement, everything, velocity, command, looks great. But he does have these games where he just blows up and costs the Phillies games or just, allows the team to send a dagger like the Braves did and just wrap up a game, pretty much close it out there. And it's really unfortunate. Obviously, the Phillies need help in the bullpen. It's their biggest weakness in 2025. And as we near this July 31st trade deadline, a guy that the Phillies could look into, a guy that could be a realistic trade candidate for any reliever needy team like the Phillies as we head close to this July 31st trade deadline is Pittsburgh Pirates veteran left-handed reliever Caleb Ferguson. He's a 28-year-old. As I said, he's a lefty. He's having a pretty good season in 2025 for the Pirates despite an overall bad season for the Pirates as a team. Caleb Ferguson owns a 2.75 ERA. He has 9 holds in 36 innings so far in 2025. He's also yet to allow a home run this season, so that's always good. You don't want your guys who are coming in late in the game to allow a home run, especially in close ball games, because that pretty much most of the times either ties it up or gives the other team a lead when they're pitching in a high leverage situation late in a ball game like that. So that's good. No home runs by Caleb Ferguson in 2025 to this point. Now he is 0 for 3 in save opportunities in 2025 so far, but he has allowed only just 1 earned run so far in June. Obviously, the month is wrapping up, so just 1 earned run through the month of June in 12 innings that he has pitched. So that's pretty impressive out of Caleb Ferguson. As I said, he has a sub-3 ERA, 2.75 to be exact. He will be a free agent after this season, So it really won't take that much to acquire a guy like Caleb Ferguson. And as I said, a very realistic trade option for a team like the Phillies that need bullpen help, especially late inning high leverage arms. The Pirates are one of the worst teams in Major League Baseball in 2025. They are in last place in the NL Central. They are well out of a playoff spot. So they are going to be sellers most likely at the trade deadline. Teams are going to be calling about guys like Caleb Ferguson, some other arms they have, some other position players they have. But the Phillies should be interested in a left-handed reliever like Caleb Ferguson to come in and help shore up a very weak spot for the team in the bullpen. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Phillies Daily. Sorry we couldn't be talking about another Phillies win, but hopefully they get back on track and we get back to it in this next video that we move forward after this series finale against the Braves. Again, thank you guys for watching Phillies Daily. I'm your host, Mike Henley. Make sure you guys like, comment, share, and subscribe for more Phillies content. And as always, go Phils.